I'll sit up straight here trying to suck in the gut.
What's up, everybody? Hey, welcome to Passing the Positive number 10. Yes, we've hit double digits. Today, we've got a special guest, Bruce Lund. Thanks for showing up. Appreciate you, man. It's funny, it's actually just put him on the spot. We had a meeting to talk about other stuff, and I'm like, Bruce, you're a stud, man. We got to get you on here and talk about some of the things you have going on. So we got Bruce in the house. And
Stud is a strong word, but we'll take it.
We'll go with it. We'll go with it.
I like it.
I've known Bruce for a little bit. Bruce has a program that he's got in town to help people do better in what they do. Help them, whether that's mortgage, real estate, sales, whatever that is. And it's phenomenal. So I'm going to give you an opportunity real quick to talk about you, introduce yourself and what you do, and let people know who you are.
Absolutely. I usually start with the story. I moved here about a year ago to Denver from Nashville, Tennessee, and I didn't know a single person in my target market of real estate, mortgage, title, insurance, financial services.
Right.
And so my background is I helped grow $1 million coaching business in Nashville, and I was vice president, director of sales. I was coaching it, I was developing it, I was selling it, and it just got to the point where I'm like, man, why am I not just doing this on my own?
Yeah.
So that's where I decided to, I love my previous guy, but I was like, I kind of have this calling to go do this thing. And so it's kind of that whole go west young man, right? So I came west from Nashville to launch 90-Day Sales Manager, and it's been one wild year, but I have no regrets whatsoever, man. I can meet cool guys like you and spend time and really help people grow with their business over a 90-day process.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And we all need that, right? And that's all something we all try to strive to. How are we going to put, things in place to grow our business? And then can we really stay true to what we put in place?
That's right.
That's the hardest part.
That's right.
And the cool thing with your program is that you put those things in place for you.
Yeah.
Like, it's right there. I mean, I'm going to move his phone and show you. He's got this thing right here that just says, hey, stay on track.
Daily accountability, man.
Right.
Daily, the funny thing about accountability is everybody says they want it until you give it to them, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, maybe I don't want it that much.
Hey, wait a second.
Yeah.
Back it up a little bit.
Yeah. And so, one of the things that we talk about with the program, and the way I explain it now is it's like P90X is sales training.
Yeah.
And so what I say is stop and give me 20 minutes every single day. And we have a virtual training platform where it's literally Monday, day one, Tuesday, day two, and it walks all the way through a full 90-day process. And so that's where the people get those daily habits, daily activities that's tied to top producers. I've had the pleasure of coaching $100+ million producers in mortgage and $30+ million producers in real estate. I'm actually speaking at the $1 million roundtable of the top financial services association in the world in July out in LA. So there's a lot of just cool things that are going on.
No, it's awesome, man. Well, we're glad you moved here.
Yes.
Thanks for doing
Likewise,
that.
Man.
So, in your business and just as you've gone through transitions from leaving where you're helping run a business to creating your own business, moving to a state where you don't know anybody, you get ups and downs, man. How do you stay motivated when you get into those, you might hit some walls like, man, is this working? Am I growing the way I want to? How do you stay motivated and keep going?
There's a couple different ways. Number one is just, a lot of people say confidence is like cliched, all that kind of stuff, right? And purpose and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But guys, without truly knowing that you are going to make it and that you are really good at what you do and you do have something incredibly valuable to offer people. So that's really where I have to constantly remind myself, based on my background as a former college professor. There's nobody in the training space that I know of that had a PhD at 29 and human performance and has been a teacher and all these kinds of things. So I just have to remind myself that what I'm building is very different. And you got to realize when I first moved here, 2 Novembers ago in 2016, at the end of 2016, I didn't know anybody. In our very first 90-day group, I had 3 people. Right? And you're kind of wondering like, wait, I left all this behind back in Nashville to come here and I had 3 people. But I just had to continue to remind myself what I was building, what we were growing, right?
Yeah. And
so I think that's one of the big things is just staying focused on where you are going with that. And then number 2 would just be, and as cliche as that is, it's the whole we become the sum total of those we hang around the most, right?
Absolutely.
And so I believe that we can borrow confidence from other people.
Yeah.
And so constantly putting yourself in proximity to prosper and getting around big time thinkers, doers, and achievers. And we all have these people in our community, right?
Right.
And so in our 90-day sales selling system, there's a category in there called Nextpert. So I want to spend time with a talented person like yourself once a week to where I can pick their brain. I can learn from them. It's not a salesy thing whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's really just me, personal and professional development, learning from people who have been there and done it.
Yeah, no, I love that. A couple things there is, first of all, you pick your team, right? You pick who you want to be around. And if you pick that the right way, you're gonna do well. That, like you said, I can't remember who said it. We just looked. I think it was Jim Rohn said, "Hey, the 5 people around you, that's your circle, right?
That's exactly.
And that's who you're gonna develop to be, and that's how you're gonna be around those." The other thing you talked about was the power of focus.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you stay focused on what your goal is, and as long as you're focused on that, the power of that focus, like the book, you're gonna get there.
Yeah.
Right. I love that. Those are 2 huge points that I think, as we're starting in the year of 2018, that if we implement those things,
No doubt.
we can have a good year.
No doubt. And then one thing I would just add to that, I think a lot of people, it's the start of the year, right? So new year, new me, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And people are planning their whole 2018. And while it's important to stay focused on the big picture, the year in advance or 10 years or whatever it is, guys, at the end of the day, I don't know where I'm going to be in this December, right?
Yep.
And so that's why I love the 90-day process, where it's like, all right, in this 90 days, what is my dominant focus?
Yeah.
What am I really focused on during this 90 days that I'm going to get held accountable to through that process?
I love that. I love the fact you say the day piece of it, right?
Yeah.
You're winning every single day in those 90
that's right.
days to get to those short-term goals, which is in default going to help you achieve your long-term
That's
goals.
right.
So, no, that's awesome. I love it, man. Thanks for sharing that. You obviously got to a point within your career that you were like, man, I feel pretty successful. I feel like I could go do this and do my own thing. What was it that you put in place, maybe on a daily, weekly, monthly activities to get those things going?
I really think it's the benchmarks,
Yeah.
giving yourself the daily and weekly benchmarks, and then whether it's yourself holding you accountable to it or other people holding you accountable to it, but it really creates that sense of urgency every single day.
Right.
Chop wood, carry water every single day.
Yeah.
And I know one of the questions is like your mentors. I was very fortunate for on and off for 7 years to work with a guy named Coach Michael Burke, to where I saw him grow a business from where he was a former championship basketball coach, a women's coach in high school, to become one of the top motivational speakers in the entire Southeast and now around the country as he continues to grow his brand. So to work underneath of a person like that and see the daily struggles and the daily successes and the daily systems that he was just methodical. Right.
Wow.
And then what happens is, whether it's 90 days, a year, or the 10-year overnight success story, right?
Right.
And so you see all the behind the scenes stuff that goes into it.
Yeah.
Because in the coaching business, you see these guys like the Grant Cardones and all these kinds of guys. You see them on the big stage, but guys, you don't see the 99% that go into it behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
And so really, I do think that's just cutting my teeth underneath a guy like that, of just seeing him every single day, man, focused. And when there's days where it's easy to say, oh, you know what, let's shut it down at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
No, man, let's power through and get to 4:30, 5 o'clock and go celebrate the weekend.
Man, it's those people that say, hey, I get to the 5-yard line and I fall over, right?
Yeah.
You were constant and very good about saying, no, I'm at the 5-yard line.
Yeah.
I'm going to dig my cleats in and I'm going to freaking get over the end zone.
That's right.
That's phenomenal. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
We all go through those pivotal moments in our lives, right? What was yours, and how did that get you to where you're at today?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would think there's probably 2 or 3 different things. Like, there's one theme behind it, which was giving me the confidence to go reinvent and start something new.
Yep.
And so there's been a few different times in my life where I've done that. Number one would be, when I was 17 years old, I graduated high school, and I had a chance to go play college baseball in Tennessee.
Nice.
And at first I was like, no, I had a girlfriend at the time, all that kind of stuff. I'm like moving 4 states away.
I can't leave my girl.
Yeah, it's family, it's friends, and that was, I'm from a small hometown in Reed City, Michigan, and a graduating class of 100 people, right?
Wow, yeah.
And so I'm just like, that was all I knew, but I knew there was more out there.
Yeah.
And so luckily at the very last minute, my cousin was like, dude, you're gonna regret not doing this.
Yeah.
And that single thing has become the biggest thing in my life, because to move to a state, that I don't know anybody.
Yeah.
And to really understand at 18 years old, like there is a big world out there.
Yep.
And you are on your own a lot of times. And it really is, you are the driver, right?
Yeah.
Behind your success.
Yep.
And so experiencing that for the first time, well, that gave me then the confidence to move to Tennessee a second time to go to grad school.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't know anybody. I moved to Nashville at that time before I moved to Knoxville. So just 2 different times in my career where it gave me the confidence. And now I did that. I moved to Texas. I've been to West Virginia. I came back to Tennessee. Now I'm out here in Denver. Yeah. And so, just talking to the younger generation out there, especially the 17, 18-year-olds, man, it really is just getting out there and seeing the world, man. There's a lot of opportunity out there. There's a lot of different people to meet. And so it should become fun when it comes to all that kind of stuff. But then having the confidence of, you know what, I am my greatest asset, right? Like my confidence, my skills, at the end of the day, my knowledge, my skill, my desire, my confidence, my likability, that's all internal, and I can control that.
Absolutely. You know, I hope you guys heard that Bruce came from a town with a graduating class of 100 people, and he's at where he's at today. So I don't care what your situation is, where you come from, what your background is. If you're willing, like he said, to do your self-accountability and do those types of things, you can go do what you want to accomplish. Like, I love that story, man.
Yeah.
The whole thing behind that to where you are today, that's incredible. I mean, you've done major things, hit major strides. And the other thing is you didn't hold yourself back, right? Yeah. You said, okay, this is scary. But like Chrissy Hodges said last week in Passing Positive, the only thing on the other side of fear is usually nothing, right? Mm-hmm. There's usually nothing besides the human element on the other side of fear. You were like, screw it, man. Yeah. Screw that fear. I'm going.
Well, it's never as bad as you make it out to be either. Right. I mean, at the end of the day, and I talk about this a lot in our coaching, but you know, the biggest gap in the world is the execution gap, right?
Right.
Between the things that you should be doing or want to go do and actually taking action to go do those. And so even if you know, the whole failure thing, right? There's no such thing as failure. It's just learning from those experiences. Yeah. And then you put that in your little toolkit and you take it with you the rest of the way. So.
Yep. No, I love it, man. I love it. Can you name that one person? I know you talked about, you know, the gentleman you worked with.
Yeah.
Who's that one person that was maybe your mentor? Maybe that person that got you to where you're at today and helped develop you.
Well, I would say he's the biggest one.
He's the one.
You know, he's the biggest one because I spent so much time underneath of him, kind of learning from him. And you know, when I was in grad school, I was 24, and I started to, you know, do the whole PhD thing. So I was teaching classes at Middle Tennessee State University. I got introduced to this guy, and I basically just fell in love with what he was doing, getting on stages and impacting people. And so I basically followed him around like a little puppy dog, right? And so, you know, I wasn't even getting paid for doing that. I was using my skill set. You know, in my previous life, I was a journalist, and so I used my skill set of writing to write press releases for him. And I think that's one big lesson, guys, is learning how to really leverage, you know, past success, no matter how small, into future opportunities. Yeah. And so that's really for me to kind of go through that with him. I really had to figure out what skill sets, what value do I bring to the table that you don't have, and then how do I use those. But I do, like, he was a big one. You know, I had my graduate advisor at Middle Tennessee State. You know, I've actually had 2 different ones there. You know, and then, you know, there's a whole difference between a mentor and a disciple, right?
Right.
Yeah. A mentor is somebody that you have direct access to, that you can learn from. Yeah. To me, a disciple is, we say Jim Rohn, right? R-O-H-N. Yeah. I love Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn's actually old school. He's, you know, since passed away, all that kind of stuff. But between him and Stephen Covey, those are kind of my 2 disciples that I constantly learn underneath and study, even to today, right? The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Yep. I've actually borrowed that language, and I call it the 5 Habits of Highly Effective Salespeople, which is really what our program is built around. Right. So there's all different kinds of mentors, but also disciples, which, you know, I would say that, you know, instead of studying 1,000 different disciples, pick one, man, and really master the materials. Like, you know, you talk about Vaynerchuk quite a bit, and so I know you like listening to his stuff, right? Yeah. But I think a lot of people will be like, all right, well, I like this guy, and I like this guy, and I like this guy. That's fine, guys, but it's like anything. It's like having that discipline focused. Right. All right, why don't you study this one person and actually master what they talk about, and then you can move on to the next person.
No, I think that's so big right there. I mean, there's so many people in our world, and just in general in life, man, we see the squirrel, we see that next big person, like, oh my gosh, he's great. Wait a second, he's great. Let's go see them all and educate ourselves on all of them. But then you lose some because you can't stay focused on that message from that direct person. Right. No, I love it, man. Well, we talked about skill sets, those types of things. What's maybe one best practice that you have in your life that you could share with people that they can implement into their lives to better themselves?
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, it really comes down to the daily habits. Yeah. You know, and as fun as being an entrepreneur really is, because of the autonomy and, you know, we're in charge. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, though, you really are a machine, right? Yeah. You wake up typically at the same time. You do the same thing, right? You know, and so it really is that discipline focus, the routines and the structure for everyday life. Like right now, man, I'm having to hold my own self accountable to getting up in the morning, already having my clothes laid out, and literally rolling out of bed at 5:30 a.m., putting on my gym shoes, and going right down into our training facility every single morning, right? And then from there, I can come back up and I can pound out, you know, 90 minutes of prospecting.
Yeah.
You know, and then I can get into, and so guys, if you look at it that way, within the first 2 hours of my day, I've already done most than what other people have done their entire day, right?
Right.
And now from there, everything's just a compound effect.
Right. No, I love it, man. You know, Damon Eddy does a thing in the mornings where he has his podcast. One of the things he talked about yesterday was your morning routine. You own your morning routine. You have perfected it. You know what you need to do in order to go make your daily activities count for you and your business.
And if we add to that too, I would say everybody in the world needs an accountability partner. Absolutely. And a scoreboard. You know, everybody competes harder when there's a scoreboard. I'm a former college athlete, so you know the best teams I've ever been on, I've wanted to go do them. They've been fun. I've enjoyed my teammates, but we held each other accountable to it.
Right.
So everybody needs, whether it's a coaching program or just a person in your field or your industry or even in sales, you should have some kind of accountability partner.
No, I love it, man. I can't thank you enough for giving me the opportunity to sit down with you and learn from you constantly, and then put you on the spot and just say, hey, guess what? We're doing a show today. Bring it. So, hey, you guys, Bruce Lund, plug into him. I'll put everything that you need, and I'll hit the contact information to get a hold of Bruce on Passing the Positive video. We appreciate you. We love you. Have a good day. We'll talk to you soon.
Keep it positive.
All right, we'll see you. Bye.